Hi gang, Rob here. It is the morning of 19 August 2015 and I got a little knife review for you all this morning. There's a big shock on the TheApostleP channel, a knife review. We're going to talk today about a new model for 2015 from our friends at Zero Tolerance ZT Knives, division of Kai USA, sister company to Kershaw. This year, we have several knives in both the ZT and Kershaw lines that are collaborations with Ernest Emerson. This is one of them, and maybe the best one. This is the ZT0620, and it is a familiar blade shape. If you're an Emerson fan, it's the Emerson Modified American Tanto. What makes it an American Tanto is its distinct two grinds, one main grind relatively straight, and then another steeper or less acute grind at the tip with sort of a sub-tip or yokote. It makes for an excellent piercer and a strong tip. You'll notice right away that this ZT offering, although a collaboration with Emerson, has some pretty stark differences in philosophy to an Emerson blade, in the fact that, unlike an Emerson, it is V-ground. Emerson Tantos are completely flat on one side, with both primary bevel and edge bevel happening on one side of the blade. This ZT is a symmetrically ground blade, which I prefer. And that sort of brings me to what I really like about this knife. If you sort of respect Emerson knives and you have admiration for Ernest Emerson's folding knife vision, but you really don't like some of his thinking and philosophy on the details of a knife, you're probably going to love the ZT0620, the 620, and its stablemate, the 630, which has that sort of odd but beautiful Emerson clip point, much like a CQC8 or a Horseman, which I probably prefer to this Tanto style. But we have this one in for review from my subscriber Brady. So this is which one we're going to talk about. This is actually the second one I've had in the shop, and the first one that I've taken the time to review. This is an interesting story. Brady sent this one to me just for review. He has done his own sharpening on his own Edge Pro on this one. He just wanted to see a review on the channel and sent it to me for that purpose. So thank you, Brady. I really appreciate it. So let's sort of get an overview, a big picture of this knife. What we have in that Modified American Tanto is a 3 5/8 inch long blade, crafted of 4mm, or about 156 thousandths stock. This one in Carpenter CTS 204P, and this is sort of the up-level 620. It's the 620CF. Not only do you have a steel upgrade over the base LMAX, you also have a carbon fiber show side scale instead of G10. The handle, 4 15/16 inches in length, and its construction is pretty standard. 6AL 4V titanium on the lock side with a hardened steel insert and over travel stop. No lightning milling pockets in any location on this handle, either on the titanium frame side or the stainless steel liner on the show side. Thickness of this handle is about 512 thousandths, just barely over half an inch. The weight, a robust and frankly overweight 6.2 ounces. That could have been reduced probably by an ounce with some nice milling like ZT normally does on a knife. What does that give us as far as balance? Well, I guess they knew what they were doing. The balance point is in the finger groove in the handle. So chunky blade, chunky handle, perfect balance, hefty knife. Not all you guys are going to mind 6.2 ounces of weight. Frankly, sometimes I don't. Kind of reminds me of an Emerson styled ZT550, and the similarities don't end with its chunkiness. What else does it share with the 550? Well, it shares my preferred suspension system. See if you can see them in there. No ball bearings. That's right. Phosphor bronze washers. Strong, stable, smooth. Flies out of the handle. Normally they provide excellent blade centering. This one, not quite. You have to adjust this knife pretty tight in the pivot to get perfect blade centering. But that is a small thing on an otherwise beautifully constructed knife. The pivot is that sort of odd one from Zero Tolerance. I think we saw this first in the ZT0200. It has my preferred anchoring system for what's normally the female pivot, that hex restrained into the lock side frame. This one, however, is not a female pivot. This is male, and then we have that 10mm nut on the other side. Supposedly, in hard use, tactical situations, this lets a user in the field adjust it with any old 10mm wrench. We'll get into that. Other than the blade centering, it's one of the two things, or maybe three, that I'm going to ding this knife for. First of all, let's talk about deployment speed. Well, as you know, if you watch this channel, you don't need ball bearings to have a knife that is free, smooth, and deploys quickly. It works well with the thumb disc, and it works even better with this wave feature. For those of you who don't know what this little thumb ramp slash appendage is for on a blade, I did happen to put this knife in pocket while on camera and deploy it. So take a look at how this wave feature works on this knife. Be right back. I know you're all dying to find out. It is an Emerson. Will it wave? Well, let's find out. With authority, I'd say. Want to see it again? Yep. And by the way, that lanyard Brady put on helps. Well, as you can see, it's a very effective opening mechanism. As the knife is extracted from the pocket, this hook grabs the pocket seam and out comes the blade. Better than that, as you saw. Puts it in a fighting position without having to open the knife in a second move. Great innovation, and it is an Emerson innovation. One thing that some of us have never loved about Emerson knives is the thumb disc. I still don't think it works as well as a stud or a spidey hole, and it does get in the way at times. This one, actually, don't know if this is it an early serial number? Not really. Up in the mid-high 2000s. But I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try to hold the knife square to the camera. Don't know if the camera's picking it up. But that thumb disc, I don't think the hole is drilled perpendicular to the spine of the blade. It's a little off kilter. Sometimes I'm not quite sure what the zero means in Zero Tolerance, but either this one is out of tolerance or the tolerance is more than zero. Let's talk about the blade a little more. I like this sort of 2015 finishing theme ZT is doing with these stone-washed flats and the CNC grinder satin primary bevels, and that looks so good. as it transitions to a polished edge. Nice job, Brady, by the way. You guys may notice after Brady sharpened it, it got dropped on its nose. There's a little chip at the tip. But beautiful blade finishing, pretty symmetrical grinds. As our eye moves down the spine, we can see that. How's the knife in hand? Well, the carbon fiber is generally a little slick. This one has the sort of broken fuller pattern milled into the carbon fiber. I guess it provides a little indexing, not really any more grip. The jimping is very smooth and round. It doesn't really grab the thumb. Doesn't really need to with the nice finger groove. The hand is pretty locked in that saber grip. And the knife is super comfortable in all grips. It does have decidedly Emerson ergonomics. The hand is placed relatively far back from the beginning of the cutting edge, and there is no forward choil. Actually, most Emersons have a little bigger finger guard pushing your hand farther back than this ZT version. I kind of like this one better. So in the One All's Pub Samurai grip, semi-comfortable but not quite as comfortable as the saber grip. And a normal hammer grip or overhand grip, very good in hand. And in a draw cut, sort of draw cut reverse grip, very good. No hot spot created by the finger guard and the handle. And the reverse grip, although we have a little bit of a lanyard issue, is pretty good, as it needs to be for a tactical fighting knife. Kind of a medium size tactical fighting knife with a lot of reach because of the hand position, pushed back from the beginning of the cutting edge. Let's talk about its construction. In fact, let's sort of take a look inside. I had the camera rolling when I took this one apart to examine it, so take a look, get a little footage of that, and then we'll put it back and come back together. We'll put it back together and come back together to wrap it up. Okay, first of all, before I take this thing apart, I've got to see if it has the same one horrible issue that the 550 had, and that was interchangeability of the pocket clip from right side to left. You'll remember in the 550 review that I did, I explained how this thin liner on the show side was too thin, and the pocket clip screws were too short to grab enough threads to secure the clip. And I had to switch the screws out with a Benchmade 710 set of screws. It looks to me like on the 620, sort of bring this in so you can see it, the titanium side, it appears to be thicker than the combination of the liner and the carbon fiber scale on the show side. So I'm thinking the screws are going to be long enough, in fact might even protrude into the blade well just a bit. So let's reattach. And like most small hardware, even large hardware, where you have threaded fasteners arranged in a pattern, you don't want to tighten one at a time full tight. Just snug. Okay, now we're approaching snug, and we want to move the pocket clip that direction away from the blade, because that's the direction of any pressure you'd put on it while opening the knife if you rested your fingers on it. So we've sort of taken the play out of it, and now we're going to do, whoops, one screw at a time, full tight. 1, 2, and I'm putting a fair amount of torque on these 3. Just to make sure that we're going to hold these threads. And so there we are. Interesting. Need to run a rag through here, which might be a little difficult because we have this lanyard, but there we go. Well, our screws are not protruding. Let's see if you guys can get in here. Well, let me pull a light out. You have a better view of this than I do right now. You know what? It looked to me, I don't know what you guys saw, but it looked to me like they were just about flush with the inside of that liner. So guess what? The engineers at Zero Tolerance learned there might only be 3 or 4 threads in that liner, but we're using them all. We've got a very secure clip. So for you lefties out there like me who were concerned about that, no problem. Now we're going to proceed to taking this knife the rest of the way apart. Gracious. Oh, golly. That's insane. Gotta go to bigger handle. More torque on small mini Torx fasteners is not generally a good thing. We're gonna have to be careful. So we're going away from the small handled WEHA to the larger handled Radio Shack driver. Yes, it's probably made in China, but that was just what we needed. That is not a knock on the WEHA tools. They are superb. I think the WEHA handles are designed to never be able to apply more torque than a Torx fastener can handle, frankly. Okay, I've already started the hex nut pivot. Why? Because I didn't bring proper tools for the job, and I didn't want you to see me use a crescent wrench on a 10mm nut. It's kind of like using your knife as a pry bar, isn't it? Okay, there's our scale, there's our nut. We're in. So what do we see? We have a lanyard pin, shouldered on both ends, a closed stop pin and an open stop pin, both shouldered for location. We have 2 shouldered hourglass standoffs, so let's count them. Points of location: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the pivot. I think that knife ought to stay where you put it, huh? Now let's look at our high-tech ball bearing pivot suspension system. Wait, what? What? Phosphor bronze washers? Well, that just can't be. That'll never do. Well, actually, it'll do quite fine. And look, guys, it looks like Brady has done a little polishing, hasn't he? And I think I detect a little CRK fluorinated grease. Interesting. I'm going to put it back together with Daiwa Real Oil. You said I could take it apart and do anything I wanted, Brady. So I will. Just thought you guys would like to see inside. And look at this. Stainless steel pinned for location. Lock bar insert. Very nice. Well done, ZT. So as we've come to expect from Zero Tolerance, everything is super well finished on the inside of the knife. Just a very, very buttoned up ship shape design. So we've talked about a couple of my complaints. It wouldn't be an ApostleP knife review of a ZT knife without some complaints. Now would it? Well, we talked about the thumb disc being a little out of whack, and we talked about a little minor centering issue. I have no issues with the pocket clip. It uses that beautiful Emerson style clip. It is not a deep carry clip. It's just a really good clip that gives you plenty to grab onto if you're pulling the knife out of your pocket conventionally or waving it open. Holds adequately and is very easily reinserted. I did not have a lefty mounting pocket clip issue, as you saw, where there's plenty of threads in that thinnish stainless steel liner to hold the threads for the pocket clip. Here's an issue that ZT gets wrong most of the time, and this knife is no exception. And you can see after Brady's sharpening, we have a little flaring going on at the base of the cutting edge because, for really no reason at all, the ricasso does not clear the plunge grind. And you guys know if this were my knife, it would. And as we're looking at it, that's going to be tricky because the closed stop pin appears to locate on the ricasso. So you have to be very careful as we enhance that ricasso to not affect where it contacts that closed stop pin. I just don't get that. Why you mean the knife is $240 in carbon fiber with the 204P blade, $200 even with LMAX and G10. How hard is it really to design a knife blade and then machine it so that the cutting edge can find its way all the way back without running into a thickening portion of plunge grind? There's just no reason for it. None at all. How hard is it to do that, really? But other than that, we have a really solid knife. It's good to see after a few years of Hinderer collaborations as ZT and use of flippers and ball bearings and gimmicks galore, that when they collaborated with Ernest Emerson, who prides himself on robust and simple knives, we went back to good old phosphor bronze washers. No tiny ball bearings. And we made a robust knife, and one might say, this is a better Emerson than an Emerson. You know, for $240 with CTS 204P carbon fiber, a symmetrically ground blade, which I contend is better for cutting than the Emerson Tonto. Phosphor bronze washings instead of Nylotron or Teflon. Better action than virtually any Emerson I've ever used. You might say the ZT Emerson is better than an Emerson. Try telling that to an Emerson fan. But nice work, guys. Really nice work. And a handsome knife. I think this knife in that Emerson clip blade design is probably in my future. You You guys know I'm not a huge Tonto fan, but the 630 might be coming my way. Just thought you'd like to see it. And Brady, thank you for sending it. Back in the mail on its way home today. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Brady's ZT0620 are sharp.